I'm Sean Fennessey.
I'm Amanda Dobbins.
And this is The Big Picture, a conversation show about Bugonia. Today on the show, we're talking about the new paranoid thriller comedy, What's It, from Yorgos Lanthimos, starring Emma Stone. And Jesse Plemons will also be updating our monthly Best Picture power rankings, which may or may not feature Bugonia. Right. Gut check, yay or nay?
I'm realizing I forgot to scroll to the end of the document right now, but we had it on the last one,
We
right?
did. I have a surprise coming for you very shortly about that. Later in this episode, though, I do have a conversation with Yorgos Lanthimos. He's actually never been on this show before, which is quite strange. Filmmaker we like. We've talked about all of his movies in the last 7 or 8 years.
And very active in the last 7 or 8 years.
Absolutely. He's on this hot streak, 3 movies in 3 years. This is his 4th consecutive film with Emma Stone, who is, of course, my goat. So Yorgos, great guest, very thoughtful guy, and hope people will stick around for that. Coming up next, movie talk. This episode is presented by LinkedIn Ads.
Sometimes marketing gets wasted on the wrong people. Like if you see an ad for movie-themed dog sweaters when you don't even have a pet.
Reach exactly who you need with LinkedIn Ads. With a network of 130 million decision makers, they can help you target by job title, industry, company size, or even skills. It's one of the reasons LinkedIn Ads generates the highest B2B return on ad spend of all online ad networks. Seriously, all of them.
Try it out. Spend $250 on your first campaign on LinkedIn Ads and get a free $250 credit for the next one. Just go to linkedin.com/thebigpicture. Terms and conditions apply.
You know, usually we start the episode by talking about the movie. Today I want to do the power rankings first.
Oh, okay.
How do you feel about that?
So that then we can talk about the movie and people who only want to listen to the power rankings won't have it spoiled.
Let's not explain the podcast mechanics inside of the podcast episode.
I was actually thinking about this before we started recording because you made a beautiful outline.
Thank you.
You were just blogging through it.
Yeah.
And I did add a section to it, which was
I haven't seen it.
Which was about the ending, and which has been a topic of conversation among those people who have seen it. And I think we can't really talk about the fullness of the movie without discussing it. But obviously, movies like Bugonia are a slower release. Not everyone's seen it, so. It's not podcast mechanics. It's consideration for our audience.
I take it back. You're absolutely right.
Yeah.
And thank you for adding that section.
You're welcome.
Also, that is exactly what I was thinking, which is that this would not be a complete conversation about this movie if we did not talk about its entirety. And so I do want to be able to talk about that. So let's talk about the power rankings first. And maybe that will betray some thoughts about Bugonia, but I don't think so.
Okay.
So
scrolling.
Just as a recap.
Yeah.
We did this on the episode that we did with Van about the Smashing Machine the last time. And that was October 1st. It's been about a month. Most of these movies have come out, though not all of them.
Yes.
Most of them have played at festivals, though not all of them. And here's where we left it last time. We had Wicked for Good at 10, Frankenstein at 9, Bugonia at 8, House of Dynamite at 7, It Was Just an Accident at 6, Jay Kelly at 5, Sentimental Value at 4, Sinners at 3, Hamnet at 2, and One Battle After Another at 1. A couple of things have happened since then.
Yes.
You and I have both seen Marty Supreme.
Correct.
We still have not seen Wicked for Good or Avatar Fire and Ash.
Correct.
I have seen Wake Up Dead Man.
Oh, I saw it this morning.
Okay, so we can talk about that. You have still not seen Train Dreams.
Monday.
We both have seen No Other Choice.
Correct.
And The Testament of Anne Lee.
Correct.
We are very comfortably able to cross Springsteen Deliver Me From Nowhere off the list. And then the final piece of this puzzle, I think, aside from the 2 big tentpole movies that are coming, is This Thing On?
Right.
Which I see this evening.
Oh.
And I'm very excited about. And what I've read about it, forget about this Best Picture power rankings bullshit that we've created here on the show, has got me excited because there's a Jim Brooks movie coming out later this year, but this kind of sounds like the Jim Brooks movie.
Yeah.
And I like the idea of Bradley Cooper saying, like, I'm just going to make a good old-fashioned adult drama. Now, I don't want to get my hopes too high, but I'm actually very excited to go to the movies tonight to see this film.
I like the films of Bradley Cooper. So I'm excited too. There is stand-up comedian energy, literally, in this, which, I'm not going to see it tonight, so people have to wait. That's one concern. And then there's just like a persistent, like, why, with like every movie, not like, why are you trying to make good movies? But there are 3, as I understand it, adult dramas about a man who makes art for a living in some sort of personal crisis.
Mhm.
And it's hard not to like connect some dots,
What
but
are
not
those
be able
movies?
to connect A Star is Born.
Oh, his three
Maestro.
movies.
Yeah.
Yes. No.
So I'm like,
I think it's very easy to psychologically analyze
sure,
Bradley
but
Cooper.
I don't have the whole picture,
Uh-huh,
you know?
yeah.
So that's just kind of where I want to be. But,
I get it.
But sure, I'm open.
Yeah, I'm very open. We can't. That's the one in particular. The scuttlebutt out of the New York Film Festival when it premiered was that it is good, but not an Oscar movie, whatever that means. So let's look at it. We talked earlier this week about the fact that House of Dynamite, given its reception now,
Yes.
it's probably out.
I think so.
So we can just take that off the board completely. Is there any other movie here that you look at and think, I don't know, I'm having second thoughts? I don't think, the fastest riser is clearly Frankenstein, which I know is a little bit frustrating for you, but it does seem like.
Don't put me on an island, okay?
What do you mean?
You didn't like Frankenstein either.
I didn't.
So it's like, just don't
But
say.
I'm not begrudging its place in the Best Picture race. That's not what this work is about. This is about taking a snapshot of the moment.
I didn't say that either. It's clearly on the list. But what I'm saying is, you don't have to just put me over there. This is when my husband, whenever he doesn't like something in the house, he's like, "Oh, I see. Like, your broccoli is there or whatever, and it's always like your thing when I don't want anything to do with it.
Well, he and I are very close.
Yeah.
So
and you don't like broccoli, but yeah, Frankenstein is on the rise. Sure. Whatever people want,
Do you feel that One Battle After Another, Hamnet, and Sinners have been moved out of the 1, 2, and 3 spot at all?
I don't really.
I don't really either.
Yeah.
You've now seen those 3 movies. Have you seen Sentimental Value?
I have.
Okay. So
I need to see it again.
How would you say you're feeling about it at 4?
It's a percolate. It's hard because it's still. Is it out yet? It's not. It's
November
not available.
7th.
Right.
Yes. November 7th limited. And then it's not out until I think Thanksgiving in a wide capacity, which is when we will have a long conversation about it.
And it was just an accident, has been out in a very limited capacity. But these are, the can 1 and 2 movies that are rolling out. And so I can't really say that they're up or down. It's a holding pattern until people and I guess voters can see them more widely.
Okay. Jay Kelly.
Yeah.
Which has had a very circuitous route.
Mm-hmm.
It does not feel like it has had the same spike that Frankenstein has had.
No.
Also, the idea of, the Netflix slate is complicated. I said earlier this week that there were 4 movies. There's actually 5 movies if you include Nouvelle Vague.
Sure.
So,
but you personally don't. I still have not seen it.
Yeah, I was mixed on Nouvelle Vague, and we'll talk about that when we talk about the other Linklater film, Blue Moon, which I thought was wonderful. Blue Moon probably not competing for Best Picture. Wicked for Good.
Yes.
One of the things that we did in my house on Monday night was we watched the Lego.
I was at your home Monday night.
After you left, when we were corralling bedtime.
Okay.
The Lego Wicked for Good trailer adaptation. They transform the trailers into like Lego animation.
But they're not actually making a full Wicked for Good in Lego.
No, they probably should.
Okay.
Candidly.
Okay.
But one of the very first times that I think my daughter spent a lot of time saying, "Can I look at your phone?" was when the first Lego Wicked trailer came out. And she was like, "I need that in me, crack now." And we got to look at this one.
Okay.
I've seen the Wicked for Good trailer, of course. I'm not anticipating Wicked for Good. I know you're not either.
Yeah.
But she was like, let's go. It is my time now.
Listen.
And a lot of people do feel that way.
On Jam Session this week, Juliet started our recording by just singing Wicked for Good to me. I mean, this was before we hit record, but then she just did a Wicked for Good update segment as a Wicked fan. People who care. Did you know they have written 2 new songs? I
did know that, yes.
You did know that,
yes.
But they have not debuted them yet. They're going to be debuting them on the Variety Hour special that Cynthia Erivo and Ariana Grande are co-hosting
Is that
together.
on NBC?
Yes, the same night as our Big Pick Live event. So if you've got tickets for Big Pick Live and you'd rather stay home and watch Variety Show live,
honestly,
we understand.
We should just cancel the show. I feel like people are going to want to stay home for that. And
Well, it's being filmed at the Dolby Theater, and I
Wow.
thought it was doing live, so I thought that we could actually go from one to the other, but it's pre-recorded, I think.
okay,
So,
good to know.
yeah, people are excited.
I'm bringing this up because I'm like, I think Wicked for Good is
Yeah,
in
I think so
a
too.
good spot right now.
I do too.
And,
of course.
And
it's never not been on our power rankings.
no, I know he was number 10 last time, and I do
Okay.
feel that it is a bit higher. To me, I feel like Jay Kelly is down a little bit. We'll
Okay.
see if it gets a spike back. And we know House of Dynamite's coming off.
Adam Sandler did get a Gotham Awards nomination for Jay Kelly supporting performance,
Which is just terrific news.
right. But that was the only one.
I feel like Frankenstein is at 5 and maybe Wicked for Good is at 6.
Okay.
If we're leaving that top 4 in place, I don't really see a reason to meaningfully change anything about the top 4.
Okay.
And then you've got the Bugonia question.
Yeah.
Setting aside your feelings about the movie, which we'll talk about very
Mhm.
shortly, is this a Best Picture contender? Now, Yorgos obviously has the legacy
Right.
because a handful of his films have been nominated for Best Picture over the years. But this, even by his standards, is a bit strange.
Is it? It's strange, and also I felt. I mean, of course, it's strange. And Emma Stone shaves her head, like we all know, and they're building stunts around it. But
It's very conventional until it isn't. And I would say
Yeah.
also the thing that it is doing a thing that is very similar to Eddington, which put
Mhm.
a lot of people off.
That's true. But I
Didn't
think
put us off, but it put a lot of people off.
I do think that Lanthimos and Emma Stone are both kind of like carved into the Academy voting firmament. And I've been surprised by the number of conversations I've had with people not co-hosts of podcasts
Mhm.
about movies
Mm-hmm.
who are like anticipating Bugonia because they know about Emma Stone. They know, especially from the favorite Poor Things 1, 2 of Lanthimos,
Mhm.
that this is something they should be looking out for.
Okay.
And Jesse Plemons is well liked.
Mhm.
I think it is still in the
I
conversation
think so
right now.
too. I think you're right. I think
And-
it's like 10.
Okay.
I think it's like at number 10. I'm very curious what kind of business this movie does
Yeah.
because, his 2 of his last 3 movies have actually made basically $100 million at the box office.
Right.
There isn't a real audience for these excursions, kinds of kindness notwithstanding.
Well, like, what would you want to put instead of Bugonia?
I don't know. I think it's pretty clear.
Oh, we don't
to me-
have Marty Supreme
right,
in here, though.
but that's going in the
Right.
House of Dynamite spot. To me,
okay, sure.
Marty Supreme, that basically is number 7.
Yeah.
Where it like
Absolutely.
people loved it at the New York Film Festival.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's really seriously competing for Best Picture right now, but there's gonna be a lot of warmth towards it.
Totally.
The Chalamet performance is sick.
Lights out.
It is so good. And, I'm sure we'll talk for 6 hours about that movie on the pod.
Mhm.
It's very big picture coded
Yes.
in a lot of ways. But I don't,
So what else could go in place of Bugonia? The Secret Agent is just not there right now. Which is not to say it can't happen.
I
But
do want to say, I know you're seeing it this
Yeah.
week. We just saw with I'm Still Here, the Brazilian contingent.
It's
very powerful.
Totally.
And I wouldn't be
We
stunned.
see you. I 100% agree, and I think that also really applies in the acting categories.
Yes. And to me,
and which we've said.
and Bugonia and the Secret Agent kind of have something in common, which is that they have these very funky genre trappings
right.
around what is also like a very kind of sensitive, emotional, grief-stricken story. And so like you could see like only one of those two getting the nod. It would be cool if the Secret Agent made it in. I don't know about at the expense of Bugonia, but it's an interesting consideration.
Right.
And then
But it's not being released until end of November.
yes,
And
it's going to take a while.
It's gonna take a while.
Yeah, and we'll get to that too when it comes out. Then what we have to think about is I think Avatar, Fire and Ash, Train Dreams. I don't think Wake Up Dead Man's going to make the list. I think it's people are going to like it. I think they're going to, I thought it was very good. I think
Same.
He has gotten original screenplay nominations for the first 2 Knives Out films.
I could see it.
It's not out of the realm of
I
possibility.
could see it.
But
But I would agree with you that I
don't think it's Best
in the-
Picture.
no.
So Avatar and Train Dreams, are either of those, or is no other choice possibly sliding Bugonia out? I think that'd be cool
Yeah.
for park fans. That was a very fun movie.
Right. But to me, to me, and it is because I saw them in rapid succession, but like that is that's a great double feature. And I think you either have one or the other. And
I agree.
I do think the Academy voters are trained for Lanthimos first.
Probably the case.
And then the Emma Stone of it all.
Probably.
Can I ask a question?
Yes.
Yeah.
Speaking of Academy voters having, roots to some of these filmmakers, for the last 2 months, I feel like pretty consistently, both you two and David Sims have been like, we're really worried about Avatar. But from my personal perspective, I just feel like I would be stunned if they do not give it a Best Picture nomination. Especially with Cameron.
My biggest hang up with it is that it's only been 3 years since the last one. And it just is going to feel less impressive because it's so soon. That's total speculation and has nothing to do with what I think about the quality of the movie. I'm fired up. Like I like the Avatar movies. I've always been honest about that. I think they're cool.
Yeah.
I think this one could be cool. I just don't know if it feels like special in the same way.
There's also, you only get one franchise blockbuster spot usually.
You think that's Sinners?
Oh no, I think it's Wicked for Good.
Oh.
I think I would be surprised if they did Wicked for Good and Avatar Fire and Ash, just from a. I mean, it's different audiences, but look, you can make, quote unquote art while also making millions of dollars.
I think there's some differentiation between them just because one is like a movie musical versus a spectacle, right? And so like there is usually like a musical spot, there is a spectacle spot. So there is, but your point is well taken, which is that it's not often that you see multiple franchise movies in the race. It's a tricky one. My gut is to leave Bugonia in right now and to say Jay Kelly is at 9 and It Was Just an Accident is at 8. That's kind of boring. I don't know. I mean, do you want to?
We've got Marty Supreme in. I haven't seen the evidence for Train Dreams yet. Literally, and also
premiered at AFI. Re-premiered at AFI. People liked it.
Yeah,
and that would mean 3 Netflix movies, which is a lot to ask.
And they're good at nominations.
Very good. They are literally the best at getting nominations. Yes.
And Weapons Out.
I think so.
We flirted with it, and that was fun.
Yeah. I'm fired up for the Amanda Seyfried Testament of Anne Lee Best Actress campaign, which is going to be hot and heavy.
Yeah, but I agree that I don't think that it'll crack the top 10.
Nothing else, right?
I don't know. You can't really.
I'm just going to say this again. I mentioned it this week and you scoffed at me, but I'm not closing the door on the F1 nomination. I just want to say that there is a world where that's Apple's only horse in the race.
Right.
And that's a movie that has great craft. So you've got all those guilds and all those artisans who are going to be behind it. Kaczynski's already had a film in Best Picture before with Maverick. The movie did really well, and it did really well internationally. To me, it's not crazy. There is a history of movies like this. These like muscular event films that have the sheen of prestige. I'm not ruling it out.
I like everything that you're saying is factually true.
Mm-hmm.
It's always a good strategy to stake out a wild thing as like it could happen.
I said it.
I've
been doing this.
October 30th.
This has been my business for years
fine.
now.
Brad Pitt was like at the Dodgers game last night, right next to Flea. So, he's maybe thinking about popping back up here and there.
Of course. And I'm sure it's going to hit the streaming service soon,
I don't think it has the juice.
Okay.
At this point. It didn't have the juice when it came out. I know it made a good amount of money and we were all like, hey, pretty good. Remember when the Zeppelin hits?
But internationally it did really well. It's now, it made like $600+ million. It actually turned out to be, it's like made roughly the same amount of money as Superman, So from an international box office perspective, huge success. US, pretty modest, not as big as they would have wanted it to be. But I'm just thinking about like, it's freaking Hans Zimmer and Joseph Kosinski and Jerry Bruckheimer producing. Like, it is Hollywood.
Right.
But with an international sport that a lot of international voters might have an understanding, affinity for. I don't know. I'm just
No,
podcasting with you,
No, I love to podcast every day. So the campaign would be run by Apple and not Warner's because Warner's distributed it.
I believe so. I could be wrong about that.
Because I want to ask you this. Do you think any of the Warner's Paramount acquisition of it all, who does that splash back on if it goes through? If there is dissatisfaction in the industry, if not the world at large, at the consolidation
it's a very good question.
Of studios and the loss of jobs and everything that entails?
It's a great question. I think they won't punish the artists. I don't think that they'll punish one battle after another because there's an effort to sell Warner Brothers.
Yeah.
I don't think. I could be wrong. I
know, but does Warner's get like 3 or 4, you know?
I think they're going to get 2. I've been pretty consistent that I think they're going to get 2. I think Sinners and One Battle are locked in.
Okay.
I don't think they'll punish them for that because it's not anybody's fault who worked
so
on those
either,
movies.
But
it's
I'm
an
just
interesting.
thinking out loud.
Paramount doesn't have a movie that's competing.
Right. Yeah. That's the problem.
Yeah.
Among many.
Well, they're trying to make a change there, which could, damage the movie going long term. We'll see. I think I feel good about this. So this list would be Bugonia, J. Kelly, It Was Just an Accident, Marty Supreme, Wicked for Good, Frankenstein, Sentimental Value, Sinners, then Hamnet, and then One Battle After Another.
Yeah.
No reason to believe One Battle After Another is moving out of first place. You're not swayed by the Hamnet shifts.
It's just because Hamnet's going to be released in a few weeks,
Okay.
So
then you'll be putting it at number 1.
We're in the press cycle. No, we're in the press cycle. It's when people are talking about it,
Yep.
and then also people need other stuff to write about, so they're hand-wringing about One Battle After Another international box office or whatever. It's where we are. But I think we can reassess.
Sounds good.
In a month.
I feel fine about this.
Okay.
Shall we talk about Bugonia?
Yeah.
Okay. Let's get into it. So this will be a spoiler conversation. I don't know if we'll be like really deeply spoiling it until we get much further into our conversation.
And we will say, and now we're going to talk about the ending.
Yes. So if you don't want anything about this new film spoiled, I do believe it's opening wide this weekend. So everybody will be able to see it. As I said, new movie from Lanthimos, his 4th movie with Emma Stone. The screenplay is by Will Tracy. Will Tracy, interesting figure. He was the editor-in-chief of The Onion. He wrote on Last Week Tonight. He wrote on Succession. And then he wrote the movie The Menu from 2022. This is his new screenplay, which it sounds like was perhaps engineered by Ari Aster, who showed him the material for based on Save the Green Planet, which is a South Korean film that came out in the 2000s that has a very similar structure, but not all the same things in it. So, as I said, Emma Stone, Jesse Plemons, Aidan Delbus, Stavros Halkias, and Alicia Silverstone are the stars of this movie. It's an interesting cast. The framework is 2 conspiracy-obsessed men kidnap a CEO of a pharmaceutical company because they've become convinced that the CEO is an alien come to Earth to destroy it.
Right.
What did you think of Bugonia?
Big fan. And as I was prepping for this last night, and thinking about all the different parts of the movie, I was like, oh, I actually really liked this.
I had the same reaction.
So, but we discussed this right after seeing it, is that this is our particular flavor of Yorgos Lanthimos movies. And we were talking a bit with Jack, who loves Lanthimos, but Jack is in the favorite Poor Things demographic, right?
Well, I think I just had more fun with Poor Things. I think I also, we had Yorgos on the show, and I heard his conversation with Sean before I saw the movie. And I think going in, I was just Bummer Town. Sean noted, if you listen to the conversation the first time, he found it quite funny. The second time, he found it quite sad. And I think that might have rubbed off on me a little bit, and that I just, generally speaking, had more fun with Poor Things. But I also really enjoyed this film.
Well, I think that's useful to what you're saying, which is are Yorgos Lanthimos' films fun? And is that important if they're fun? Because I find his movies to be incredibly bleak. And mordantly funny.
Yes.
But kind of punishing when thinking about the human condition. But in a way, as you know, knowing me the way that you do, I love that.
But same, actually. And I'm like, if you're going to go for it, let's absolutely go for it.
If you put Melancholia on your 25 for 25 list, it's it's in that mode.
And by the way, Melancholia is really funny to me. So until it's not.
Yes.
So I've always been in the Dogtooth Lobster, less so Killing of a Sacred Deer, because everybody's got to have.
That's incredibly bleak.
It's incredibly bleak and just creepy.
Yeah.
And I like a little more human desperation and interpersonal connection in my bleakness or the absence of and the longing for, at least. But I saw this and I was like, oh, it's Dogtooth. Like this, it's like he's wearing his Dogtooth hat and not his Poor Things hat.
Yes.
The favorite is probably like the closest melding of the two. And, and that's a lot of people's favorite for a reason. And I get it, but I tend to err towards the weirder and less hopeful and frankly, just like less costume drama-y stuff, even though I'm a person who loves costume dramas and I think he sends them up very well. But to me, this was smart, funny, refreshingly weird, and without spoiling anything, like it got me. It got me a few times over.
I felt very similarly. I think seeing it a second time, as Jack said, did reveal to me that there's the charge because there is a kind of mystery quality to this movie. This idea that these men are convinced of this truth about this woman that they've kidnapped. And then the movie becomes a series of dialogues trying to ascertain the truth. And so once you've seen the movie a second time, you're not watching it with the same tension.
Right.
You're not laughing at the weirdness as much. You're more thinking about the psychology of these two characters, really, who are facing off against one another. And the Jesse Plemons character, I think it's a very, very sad person.
Yes.
And it's, I think, a very sad testimony to the way that a lot of people have been sucked into a rabbit hole in the face of a series of tragic experiences. And this is a character who you come to learn over the course of the movie has suffered some real pain in his life and is pretty lonely and really only has his cousin who is neurodivergent to spend time with. And he falls down these rabbit holes and he can't get himself out. And he keeps like looking for answers and looking for truths in the world. And like you could just map this onto any number of things that have happened in the world. You can map this onto the Charlie Kirk assassination. You can map it onto January 6th. You can map it onto QAnon. There's like a whole bunch of things. Like all of these things are all informing, I think, where a lot of the writing and like feeling of the movie is coming from, even if none of that stuff is in the movie literally. And so I really loved Jesse's performance. And then conversely, Emma Stone has a really interesting job in this movie.
She does.
And I think is pretty amazing in terms of what she's accomplishing.
Yes.
Her character is kind of broad. And I think it becomes clear why she's kind of broad over time when you're watching it. But I like her consistently undermining her America's Sweetheart persona. And this is a very nasty person that she's playing in this movie.
She doesn't give a fuck. And she encapsulates the corporate greed systemic aspect of this situation. She is the CEO of a company that did something horrible to Jesse Plemons' family. But she's also just like seen in HR training being like, everyone can go home, but they can't go home, but they can like there are a few things and including one exchange that like you noted, and I guess Will Tracy, the screenwriter, like ID'd, where she's like, let's have a dialogue about this. Like the corporate speak in this movie that she is asked to give is chilling and funny in that I want to jump off a cliff sort of way.
Yeah. And I, having worked in these environments in the past, like a lot of this is very familiar to me.
Yeah.
And if you have been subjected to it, it's pretty vomit inducing. I liked what Tracy said about it. He said there's that scene where Teddy and Michelle are arguing in the basement and Michelle asks to have a dialogue and Teddy snaps at her. I think maybe I wrote that out of a feeling after reading countless pieces with titles like what we talk about when we talk about universal health care. There's a lot of talking, but nothing actually happens.
Sure.
The talking itself becomes the point, as does the inaction. That's depressing and confusing for someone who comes from a less advantaged situation like Teddy. He's been abused by the system that keeps talking without doing anything.
Right. Which is, I think, really true and observant and leads to like a great character in Teddy, but is also kind of where I think this movie is like a bit broader and a bit more accessible than maybe we're giving credit for, because like, yes, it's weird, but there's a lot of talking, but nothing actually happens is something that any person with a corporate email account like has ever experienced. Any person who's ever had to like file for health insurance, anybody.
Can I put some time on your calendar to talk about this? That sort of thing. Or
just like the random invitations from someone being like, hey, we're going to have a summit about like how to empower like women, and candle making.
Yeah,
I'm
sorry
just
for all those invitations. Yeah.
None of that comes with a raise. So it's like everyone can understand this situation that he's been in like the broadest level.
Yeah.
And then the further you get into it, the weirder it gets and the sadder it gets for him. But it's all recognizable.
It is. The world itself is real. And it's actually the most real, grounded world I think he's probably ever made a movie in.
Yeah.
If I had to think, I guess Kinds of Kindness looks like our world, but it never feels like it is.
They're in a like a compound, like the cult, whatever, you know?
Yes. And in this movie, it's like Teddy works in a packaging facility for an Amazon style corporation. You know, that is a very recognizable space. Like his house is just a dilapidated home in a suburban neighborhood or in a rural neighborhood. And because of that, I think it makes the formal stuff that Lanthimos does seem more weird. And I think he's shooting this movie as though it is an intense anthropological animal documentary. Like it opens with these images of the bees and this idea of, the apiary that they manage at the home. And that's obviously a very broad metaphor about how we all exist on this planet and in these societies, and we all have our roles and we all work for the queen. And if we lose our purpose and we don't know where to go, that's just like me on this show. I work for the queen. And if she's not doing well, then we're going to have a tough episode,
True. I was honestly just thinking about how this is also how the Netflix series with Love, Megan opens, which explores many of those themes in a similar way.
Yeah. And she bears some resemblance to Michelle in this film. So he's using this like interesting formal style where inside the house, interiors is very much more normal than what we expect to see from him. Not as much of the fisheye lens that you see in The Favorite or in Poor Things, not the elaborate production design that you would have seen in Poor Things or the costuming. It's much more grounded in that way. But then when you go outside, like when Teddy goes to his job, there's this sense of like doom everywhere.
Sure.
Like the music gets very loud and you get these wide shots of Teddy on his bicycle or like characters moving through that natural world. And like a dinosaur is going to eat them or something. You're waiting for something terrible to happen to them. And so it's a very effective,
which is true in pretty much all his movies. The larger outside world, they're about people who are constrained in small spaces, like either by choice or by someone else.
Yes.
But that danger is just outside.
That's right. Like the mad scientist father in Poor Things thinks he's protecting his creations, but in fact, he's not allowing them to be free. Like it's something that Lanthimos comes back to over and over again. This is an interesting example of it just because this one didn't originate with Lanthimos. Like he didn't write the screenplay. He didn't develop the material as he did with Tony McNamara on a couple of movies. And it still feels like it's right in his wheelhouse. Like he's very comfortable in it. It's also like, it's unsurprising for him to make a movie about alien paranoia. He's never made a movie about that, but that he would be very comfortable doing that kind of thing.
Yeah. I mean, and that's just like the literal expression of like a paranoia of that things are not right and that there are like people who you can't see and you can't really pin down what's going on that is against you, but they're out there. And if you can just find them, you can solve all your problems.
It's the only way to make sense of what's happening to people, because even if you are living a blessed life, awful things are going to happen. And when they happen, you're like, how can this possibly be? How can this is not fair.
Yeah.
This is not what was promised. And whenever something like that happens, you want to find a way to rationalize it. Like it's a very understandable approach to a sympathetic character. But Teddy is also not sympathetic.
No.
He's incredibly violent and he's willing to do whatever it takes to get his truth.
Right.
Which is something that is also in the modern condition right now.
It's true. The character itself is not sympathetic. I do think that Plemons plays him, if not with sympathy. I mean,
I think sincerity.
It's an incredible performance. Yes. And he is not judging the person. And so then watching someone who is both like within a mania and also incredibly practical about it because it's become real to him. And Plemons like does keep it very grounded and keeps it as, kind of like next steps. And okay, we're going to need to to follow this. And he creates someone who so believes the world that he has constructed that you believe it too, or at least you don't judge him. Maybe you're like, this is bad. And you're watching and even being like, okay, I'm supposed to think about like these incels and these people who are radicalized by YouTube. And like you can think of the real illusions, but I at least found myself having some sort of connection for the character.
So one thing I felt when I was watching it related to that was he does things that feel like they are over the line. Like they're violent, they're intense. Yeah. He doesn't really have control of his emotions. However, whenever Michelle attempts to pull him into a dialogue,
right,
he's prepared with all the buzzwords to counteract anything that she says to him. Mm-hmm. Like he cannot be drawn into her game in any way because he's like, I've read all that. It's very much like Will Hunting in the bar. You know, he's like, I know what tactics you're going to try to deploy to disarm me, to make me think about how I'm in an echo chamber.
Right.
And he's like, I know everything all the way on the far left. I know everything all the way on the far right.
Right.
He's like, I'm on my own mission. I got my own shit. Now that is definitely what sociopaths say when they kill people. But it is also what politicians say when they try to convince people of things. And I think the movie is pretty clever about that, about keeping you in the middle in terms of where to land on Teddy, where he'll torture Michelle. And you're like, this is awful.
Yeah.
But then you'll hear Michelle say something after she's been tortured, and you're like, God, I wish you would kill her. And that's a very clever trick. I give Tracy a lot of credit for getting that in the screenplay and keeping that balance.
Picks the right villain.
Very much.
And both I think the character is purposely broad because that broadness is part of what the enervating quality of just being like, why can't you just like be a person or do a thing?
Yeah.
You know, so there's nothing for me to respond to. So
I don't know that we've ever had a good conversation about the CEO girl boss era, which does feel a little bit bygone. Obviously, there are still people who represent that in the culture, but it's not as prevalent as it was like 5-10 years ago.
That's true.
But she is very much inspired by it.
Yeah.
Did they?
I have a lot of them, yeah.
Oh, how come? What did they do?
They were very nice on Slack primarily. Oh. And then they forgot that there was a record of it.
That's tough.
Yeah.
You don't want that.
Yeah.
It's funny that Stone is like, I'm in my mid-30s. It's time for me to be a little sharper and to be unafraid to be unlikable in movies. If there's a funny like charting of the favorite to Cruella to Poor Things, Kinds of Kindness, Eddington, this movie, The Curse.
Sure.
Where she's like, maybe it's better if I'm terrible. Maybe that's my screen persona, like a bad person.
Maybe. I just think like she's into some really weird shit.
I know.
You know?
I love it.
It's so cool. And she is just absolutely dedicated. Like she is just making
it's the best.
So many movies with Yorgos Lanthimos. And when she's not, she's just like, sure, I'll move to New Mexico and do The Curse. Like we are a long way from Easy A. And that's really rad.
Yeah.
You know, I admire it. But the endurance, like Nate, it's a durational performance at this point.
It is. I mean,
also, two movies that are totally in conversation with each other in Eddington and Bugonia.
100%. Obviously, both in part from Ari Aster, right? Ari produced Bugonia, we should say. And that's not a mistake. It does make me think a little bit about how, because of all these feelings that we're talking about, like, this is a new version of a paranoid thriller. You know, this is, we had the Alan Pakula films and 3 Days of the Condor and all that stuff in the 70s, which was a manifestation of post-1968, Watergate, the Vietnam War, all these things happening in the country that manifested creatively in these kinds of movies that gave you this sensation. This now feels like an actual little boomlet.
Yeah.
You know, when you look at One Battle, you look at Eddington, you look at even 28 years later, where you've got these movies, your beloved Civil War, these movies that are kind of filtering the moment and trying to find something to say about them. And I don't know. I think sometimes I get a little bit stuck on what is this movie trying to say around all of these things.
Right.
I think just their existence together in a very short period of time, though, I think is saying we're in a period of like controlled chaos where everyone's individual life is like going along okay. It doesn't,
No, not even okay. Like pretty badly.
I shouldn't say that. I shouldn't paint with a broad brush. Like if you're being, if you can't get a job or you're abducted by ICE, that's obviously an absolute nightmare.
Yeah.
But I would say in the sort of like middle class, upper middle class especially, there's a little bit of like not my problem going on in the country, which is one of the reasons why a lot of things are getting worse.
Right.
It's because there's not a lot of rage in the the class that has something to lose.
Right.
Which is kind of what fascism is depending on. It kind of banks on people comfortably sitting in their house watching their TV shows or their podcasts.
Right.
So that people can make hay of the power. And it's rare for art forms to actually meaningfully try to communicate something is wrong. This movie might be a little bit too oblique to make any kind of meaningful change, but it does feel like a product of this last 5-12 years where people are like, why the fuck does everything feel so much worse every day? Why do I feel so much less in control of my own fate than my parents did?
And certainly Eddington and No Other Choice, I would say, which I know people really haven't had a chance to see, like isolate a particular, no offense, male character who has like emerged in the last 5 to 10 years and feels cast out by certain parts of society and then also overcome by late stage capitalism, basically, and everything that you're describing, and is responding to their lack of place in the world in a specific way. But you mentioned 3 Days of the Condor, and I was just then imagining Robert Redford and his peacoat compared with, Jesse Plemons in this movie. Heartthrobs of their age as actors, but that's the hottest that Redford has ever looked. And then poor Jesse Plemons just has to play a complete and utter like creepy loser. Yeah.
An unwashed maniac.
It doesn't reflect well on our times. Who our Avengers are. And they're not really our Avengers. That's another part of the problem. These are all people who are like, have been really, really trodden down by the world. And the way they are responding is not like solving Watergate.
No, I think there's absolutely something to that. I mean, a lot of these movies now are about how fragile men are making problems. I guess Nixon was kind of a fragile man in some way as well. But those movies were interested in locating at least ideas of heroism, that a journalist could be a hero in this place, or even just like a kind of bookkeeper, librarian type, like in the 3 Days of the Condor, is an unlikely person to try to save the day. Parallax View also is a journalist. Clute is a cop. Like, it's these kind of like regular guys who have heroic qualities. These movies, Eddington, Civil War, Bugonia, you don't come out of the end of them and think like, oh, there was a hero. These movies are not about that at all.
No. I mean, the sad part about all of them is that there is no hero.
They're even more hopeless. Yeah. I mean, the 3 Days of the Condor, the ending of that movie is very hopeless. I would argue these movies are more hopeless.
Yes.
And that's interesting. And it's interesting for them to be kind of coming through the mainstream movie studio system. Like, this is a Focus movie. Universal acquired the rights to distribute this movie. And I think it's pretty audacious in that way. And the idea that even a movie like this is commercial is quite fascinating. There, like so many other things, there also is a way to read this movie as kind of like a very tense popcorn thriller, like the metaphor is unmistakable, but if you're not thinking too hard about it, it could just be like, is this lady an alien or not movie?
Listen, I watched it the first time. I really wanted to know.
Yes.
And should we put off the spoiler demarcations?
Yes. Let's just say we're going to talk more significantly about the results.
Here we go.
Of the movie.
We are both like making a box around ourselves and also this part of the podcast. No, I spent a lot of time being like, oh, is she an alien? Oh, I don't think she is. And like, there was a second level to it, which is I know I'm watching a Yorgos Lanthimos movie, so I know he's trying to wrongfoot me, and I know this type of movie is trying to wrongfoot me, and so I'm like, oh, that's cute, and then but she's not going to be, but then I'm like, wait, no, maybe she is, but I know she's not going to be, but then I am supposed to think that she's not going to be, and I really did go back and forth 4 or 5 times. I think that the movie is like very cleverly structured and performed, and that credit to Emma Stone. so that I didn't really know. And honestly, when she goes back to the closet and then the big reveal, like I laughed. I was like, that is genuinely funny. You guys got me.
I totally agree.
You straight up got me.
I really enjoyed the reveal, and I similarly went back and forth thinking about it and using the psychology of our movie history with the filmmaker, which matters to it. And Yorgos, when we talked, he said just that Emma thought about this a lot. You know, that she put a lot of time and effort into thinking about what she was showing and not showing in her performance, because a lot of her performance is about this very clipped manner of speaking, is about trying to maintain control in an environment in which she has no control, and what she's supposed to be saying. And when we do, in fact, learn, spoiler alert, that she actually is an alien.
When she runs back to the closet and jumps in, I was like, no, nuh-uh.
Well, when they cut back to her in the ambulance, I was like, okay, confirmed.
Yeah,
like, you know, they reveal her to, you know, ready to make her return to her ship. I laughed as well, and I felt a little bit sad again, like I said, because this is something that I alluded to when we talked earlier this week on an episode, but Teddy was right.
Yeah.
His suspicion that there isn't just an alien species, but that she was, and not just a meaningful member of the species, but he learns because of these procedures that he's doing, that she is a high-ranking official in the Andromedan Empire.
Right.
And it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter because he's just a dumb guy with no agency.
Yeah.
And he's just another bee in the hive.
Right.
And he can't make any change. And she pretty easily outsmarted him. Even though he had her dead to rights, trapped in his house, she still outsmarted him.
Yeah.
And we're all just
and
stuck.
Also, he killed his mom with antifreeze.
Right.
Yeah.
He's an idiot. He's a fucking online idiot.
Yeah, but it's sad. Yeah.
It's very sad. But it's like, she convinced him to do something just like so many other people have been convinced to do terrible things.
Also, we're in the era where Alicia Silverstone is just being like the drugged out mom.
How do you feel about that?
Well, life comes for us all, you know?
Yeah.
I'm glad she's getting work, and I thought she looked great at Venice.
Great.
Not, you know, in a bathtub or whatever, or on an IV or whatever is going on.
The most Lanthimos-ish moments in the movie are the black and white flashbacks.
Yeah.
Where we see, which I think you could make the case didn't need to be in the movie. I think they're in attempts to show the trauma and psychology of Teddy.
Right.
But I think inferring it actually would have been a little bit more interesting. That's something I didn't love about it. I think those sequences are beautiful, but they're not, they didn't change the way I felt about Teddy.
Well, I think they soften both Teddy and the film a little bit. And again, that's where they like broaden it a little bit for me, where even if you are, I mean, this guy like literally murders people who turn out to be aliens, but you know.
Yeah, so was the implication that they were all aliens, all 7 of them?
Because remember when her voice changes and she's like, how many of them were Andromedans?
Right.
And so I guess I don't know how many, I don't remember, but several of them. He definitely tortured people.
Yes.
But you are also given this backstory of, but it's because this agribusiness or whatever it is, killed his mom and is trying to buy him off. And that's something that like, I don't want to use maybe like civilians, people who aren't here for just like true fucked up, dogtooth land can latch onto.
You can now watch The Big Picture on Spotify and The Ringer's first ever television channel, available exclusively on Samsung TV Plus, the subscription-free streaming destination bringing you the best of TV.
Rewatch some of our greatest hits, like the 1999 movie draft, the best horror movies of the decade, and more on the new all-day Ringer channel. You can also settle in and catch up with your other Ringer favorites, including the Rewatchables, the Ringerverse, and Higher Learning.
To watch, open the Samsung TV Plus app on your Samsung TV or Galaxy mobile device, navigate to the Ringer channel, and boom, you're in. One of the things that this movie had me thinking about was that the sort of like the realm of conspiracy has shifted from left to right over the last 30 years. So when I was coming of age and learning and reading about American history,
Right.
a lot of the ideas when you are reading,
that the CIA killed Kennedy.
And like Noam Chomsky will be like, the entire country is founded on rape and pillage and backroom deals.
Well,
and, which we know, but we understand now in a way that even was not taught in the 1980s nearly as much. And there's this wave of generations that are reading like Lies My Teacher Told Me and all these books.
People's History.
Yeah, People's History of the United States. Like all these books which are so, and if you study media and journalism like I do, you're like start reading McChesney and all these people, and they reveal like corporate power is the thing that tends to dominate the mind, and they're doing it on purpose.
Yeah.
Advertising is doing it on purpose. This is a way to bilk you and to narcotize you to not take action.
Yeah.
And then over time, especially in the aftermath of
Show me the lie,
9/11
but
and,
anyway.
and the Tea Party, that strategy of saying like you're being lied to, there's something wrong in the world and you need to take action,
Right.
has shifted as to become more of a strategy on the right. Now you can make the case, and I'm sure people are listening, they'll say that both sides still do it, and I'm not going to argue about that. But this movie has a really interesting relationship to that concept because Teddy is kind of neither left nor right, and he literally says that in the movie. But this framework of like, I have to take action. I have to stop this madness.
Right.
And I'm going to kill people to do it. I'm going to imprison, torture, and kill people to get to my truth.
Yeah.
Is like, it's not outlandish to put this in the movie. Like, it feels pretty kind of close to the real world, even though it's an alien movie. And we just talked about a Catherine Bigelow movie, which was, was very recently a portrayal of torture and an effort to ascertain information. And this is a more ridiculous genre-based premise, but not really very different.
It feels very close to the bone. Yeah, it's like you recognize not just the illusions, and you know, it is in some ways like obvious metaphor alert. You know, it's not that.
People are going to gripe about that too. They're going to be like, this movie is dumb as shit because it's so obvious, which I also understand people feel that way. I didn't feel that way at all.
But it's not like, let's, send Greta Lee to a reenactment of Gettysburg. Like,
no, it's much cleverer than that.
It's within the text and it's part of the structure. But not the reality of it, but the recognizability of it in a movie that is about, hey, did like aliens come to Earth to take us over? It's pretty remarkable.
How do you feel about the actual like final conclusion of just eradicating the humanity and then the bees come back?
So I remember the incredible filmmaking. I also just want to say, though, this movie was filmed, I believe, in Atlanta and in the UK. And incredible Atlanta representation in that last montage. Fernbank Center, I see you. I see the dinosaur bones remained, if not all of the people. But I was like, hey, field trip. So I appreciated that. Also, she's like driving around Ansley Park at some point. If you know, you know.
I don't know.
But I remember sitting in the theaters being like, oh, fuck, this is really working on me. And I was like really freaked out and devastated. And I remember thinking, and this is, it's like the film's making a completely different point. And also like, I do understand that aliens aren't real, but I was like, I haven't felt like this since that coda in The Big Short when they're like, Michael Berry is now shorting water. And I'm just like, well, the world, like we all are just going to end, you know, we're going to die. And this is how that's going to happen. And it's just a little coda at the end of a movie. And I'm unprepared.
Oh, I think I did just have this feeling very recently in a movie, and it's when you're looking at the data center when the Bobby Gentry song plays at the end of Eddington, where it was like, ooh, goddamn, I am powerless.
Yeah.
You know, like, and power is very centralized, and you know, enjoy your yogurt at home, you moron. Because
it now costs like $14, but whatever.
That is true. I think that this is an interesting one for Yorgos. It sounds like he's going to take a little bit of a break after this because he's been on this breakneck pace.
Yeah,
and I really think both Stone and Plemons are exceptional in this movie. I've read some criticism that people thought it would work better if Plemons was like a little more cartoonish, but I liked that he was just kind of this tragic loser.
I mean that's the thing of people always want the bad characters to be punished. And I think that the lack of punishment, except that like we're all punished because life is hell. Mm-hmm. That's the wavelength you and I are on.
I know. It's nice. It's something we share. What else? Any other thoughts about this movie or where it even fits in with Lanthimos' his filmography?
Yeah, so I think it's more first half than second half, which I think is cool.
Yep, I agree. I'm happy he kind of went back to that energy.
Yeah, you know, we did Best Picture power rankings to start this. And I do kind of feel like Poor Things had a lot of success at the Oscars because it was weird and outlandish, but also ultimately sort of like good girl
Kind of hopeful.
power. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's like the CEO makes good.
Yeah.
And she becomes her own CEO,
Indeed.
So I guess now I do wonder how Bugonia will go against. This isn't the most hopeful of even of the movies this year that are dealing with how men are cast out of the world that we live in.
Yeah, I mean, if you put it up against One Battle After Another, that's a significantly more hopeful movie, even though it's riven with tragedy. I like my personal favorites are also Dogtooth and the Lobster. Those are probably my two favorite films. I don't know if they're his best made movies per se. He's really, at this point, his production design is pretty incredible. Like he's kind of in master filmmaker territory for me. Doesn't mean every movie is my favorite. I really didn't dig Kinds of Kindness, even though it felt very close to the Dogtooth energy. I didn't think that the script was as good. And I know you don't love an anthology.
I mean, that's true. Tell a story. Favorite and Poor Things are both excellent.
They are.
Yeah.
I really like both of them as well. But this would be near the top for me. I've seen it twice now. I don't know if I'm going to race to see it again. I think it doesn't have as much comic payoff as The Lobster does. The Lobster to me is also very tragic and has an insanely bleak ending, but is very amusing.
Mm-hmm.
Bugonia, if I spent any time thinking about it, I feel very bad.
Yeah. Well, that's the point, right?
It is the point.
Yeah.
Okay.
I have a question.
Yes.
Do you think there is any chance Emma Stone gets a Best Actress nomination? And
this is a good question.
The reason I ask is, I'm watching the movie, and you guys already celebrated her. It's an amazing performance, but she's put in a position of vulnerability, which her character has truly, really never been in. And she plays it very well. And there's one moment where she is in a position of power, which is when she's on top of Teddy.
Mm-hmm.
And the mask just completely comes down. And she just delivers that line where she says, "I'm a winner and you're a loser." And she delivers it so sharply and her teeth are gritting and it cuts right through. And I was stunned. And right after, I'm like, well, surely she's going to be nominated for Best Actress. But I wonder, is there a little bit of Emma Stone fatigue following the second win from Poor Things?
I don't think there's fatigue for her as a performer.
Yeah.
I just think that the Oscars is usually kind of strategic about this, and that, she was obviously, in a tight race when she won for Poor Things.
Mm-hmm.
And I wouldn't say that was a surprise win. I think you picked it and I didn't. Is that right?
No, I think that...
Or I picked it and you didn't?
Maybe we both didn't pick it, but then it was a real oh God, I knew this was coming. Like I knew it.
Yes.
It was one of those.
Yes. Very similar to Mikey Madison beating Demi Moore too, where it was like, ooh, right. Why didn't I use my brain on this one?
Yeah.
3 before 40 would be a lot. That's just not.
Well, he's not asking if she's going to win.
I'm just saying a nomination.
I think she'll be nominated.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, she is a huge star. Clearly one of the actresses of her generation, if not the actress of her generation. Yorgos is Academy certified, like you were saying. And I don't know how successful the movie will be, but I think people will see it.
I do as well. And she's working the trail.
And she's just super charming.
Yeah.
She's just like great on the red carpet, great in interviews. She's just a good star. And those people tend to walk away from their careers with like 9 nominations.
Right. But so who do we have now? So we've got Emma Stone. We've got Jessie Buckley for sure.
Yep.
Chase Infinity is running in Best Actress.
Yes.
Which would be exciting.
Yes.
Okay.
We have Renata Rensby for Sentimental Value.
Sure.
We have Amanda Seyfried for The Testament of Anne Lee.
Okay.
We have Kate Hudson for a film called Song Sung Blue.
I heard about that. I like that she tried. Never mind. We can talk about that later.
We have Rose Byrne for If I Had Legs, I'd Kick You.
Yeah, I'd love to see that.
We have Sydney Sweeney for Christie.
Sure.
It's going to happen.
Yeah.
You said J-Law for Die My Love?
I didn't say it yet, but that's another one.
There's probably a couple
more. Got a lot
more.
of angry moms there on the list.
We do.
Cynthia Erivo.
Cynthia Erivo for Wicked for Good. I haven't seen Hedda yet, but maybe Tessa Thompson. She's gotten very good reviews for that movie. I don't think Julia Roberts for After the Hunt is going to happen.
So either.
Laura Dern, is this thing on?
Could be.
A lot of contenders this year. I think that's roughly the shape of it.
Okay. That's a lot.
That's a lot. To me, it still feels like Jessie Buckley's to lose.
Agree.
What do you think about the Chase Infinity thing? Her choosing to run in Best Actress, or them choosing to run her in Best Actress? which obviously makes room for
Right.
Tiana Taylor and Regina Hall to run in supporting.
I like it. I don't really feel category fraud or like in the way that you do, or I know Wesley
do you
Morris. You and Wesley like feel very strongly about it. I'm just like, I don't know, go
Well,
win an Oscar.
You
know?
rarely see the inverted fraud
Right.
where somebody who feels like a supporting character
Goes
into lead.
But she doesn't feel like a supporting character. I mean, she's the movie, this 2/3 of the movie, Tiana Taylor's the prologue, and then she is the girl lead in the end.
She is, but Act 2 is Bob's movie. So she gets one section of the movie. And the movie obviously becomes hers by the end. So
you get 1, 2, 3. So, I mean, Leo's not running in supporting actor.
No, but he's in every phase of the movie. He's the only character who's in every phase of the movie.
All right. I mean, you don't need to mansplain to why Leo is a best actor and everyone is supporting actor. It's like, what do you care? Like,
it's more just a question of like
the category police.
Well, I did actually by hosting this show. Category police is a good idea for a segment. Let's do that.
Okay.
I think it'd be cool if she got nominated. She's Infinity's excellent in that movie.
Yeah.
It's her third performance on screen
She's incredible.
ever. It's crazy.
Yeah.
But I think she's pulling a tough draw here with a bunch of people who've been nominated before, a couple people like, Cynthia Erivo, Amanda Seyfried, Jessie Buckley. They've all been nominated before.
Right. Emma Stone and Jennifer Lawrence have won
or
before.
have won in this category before. Sydney Sweeney was in a jeans commercial. So you got to consider that.
Have you watched those?
No.
Okay. We'll do it before Christy.
Oh
no, we'll do it.
Okay.
We'll do it.
Rose Byrne should be nominated.
1,000%.
I will endeavor to.
Okay.
I'll communicate about that on an ongoing basis for the next 5 months.
Okay,
I
great.
think she really deserves it.
Yeah.
Okay. Begonia, pretty good. I liked it.
I really do.
Yeah.
Go see it if you haven't.
Go see
if
it.
you're still listening and you didn't see it,
You're bad.
Those are your choices.
Your choice now is to either turn this episode off or more likely stick around for my conversation right now with Yorgos Lanthimos. For the very first time, joined by Yorgos Lanthimos, the great filmmaker. Very excited to speak with you, sir. I wanted to start with this. 3 of your last 4 films have been written by screenwriters other than yourself. And this one I read is the first one that you didn't even really develop the material. So I'm curious, like when a script hits your desk, what are you looking for? What is it that excites you in a story?
Well, I'll start by saying, like, all of these scripts until recently, I'm either, involved as a writer or kind of found the original material, or they were all like really long process of, development. So I was involved with the screenwriting for many years. So in that sense, this is even more exceptional. It's the first time that I receive a screenplay and I think that it's, almost ready to go. Of course, I had to do a little bit of work with Will just to get it more to my sensibility and, feel more comfortable and, make it aligned with my vision of the film. But it was like a, very short process. And I felt immediately from the beginning that it would, work because already the screenplay was incredible. So, and what it was like, it's difficult to say. Like, I guess one thing, the less profound is like it was different to what I've done before. But then, it was something that I read, and I read it like in one go, and I found it, entertaining and suspenseful and complex and, very funny, but also like dealing with, a lot of darkness, a lot of issues around humanity and human nature, which always interests me, and done in a quite different way, in a contained way. So yeah, it just got me excited immediately. And I immediately sent it to Emma Stone the same night that I read it. It was so much of an immediate reaction, I guess.
I'm curious why you were open to this kind of a process at this stage of your career, as opposed to developing or identifying the material or even writing it yourself? Like, why were you open to just receiving someone else's script?
I guess I'm always open. I had never received a script that felt, that it had the right, material or the right tone or the right anything. But it was that different with this one. So I've been reading scripts. It's just that nothing really clicked up until now the same way that this one did.
Were you familiar with Save the Green Planet before you got the script?
No, not at all. I hadn't seen it, and I actually read the script first. Got excited, shared it with Emma, and then basically when we kind of, felt strongly about it, I watched the original film just to make sure that it was different enough to warrant, a remake, and I saw that was the case, and so we decided to go ahead with it.
You're on this breakneck pace right now with 3 films in 3 years, which is very unusual for filmmakers these days. I was curious if you see the last 3 films as thematically linked in any way beyond Emma appearing in them.
Well, I mean, what we mentioned before, there's a lot of exploration of human, condition and behavior and something along those lines. At the same time, like they're formally different and seemingly, quite different stories. I don't know, like it's that thing that like it's hard to, make a self-analysis and understand what it is that draws you to these kind of things. I think that's, better done by other people that are not so much involved in the process of, making those.
Okay, I'll do it for you then if you want me
yes,
to. Yeah.
I mean, it's always interesting to hear that, those things. And especially when you do recognize something that someone says, you go like, oh yeah, I'd do that. That's true.
I wanted to ask you about the formal aspect of it, because this new film does feel a bit like you took pieces of Poor Things and pieces of Kinds of Kindness in terms of the style of film that you were making and kind of blended them together. That these are like a lot of interiors shot in small spaces, but these kind of big outsized ideas and a kind of high melodrama to a lot of the execution of the story. Like, is that something that you feel conscious of when you're like, all right, I've used these tools over here and these tools over here, and what if I smash them together?
Yeah, I mean, a little bit. Basically trying to do, something slightly different with each film, but at the same time having developed a certain kind of taste and a certain kind of preference about things, and then seeing what you can do to, tweak things just to make it more interesting. But also I rely a lot on what the material is and what that gives me in order to make that shift, not just without any reasoning, just do something different for the sake of it. So, for example, on this film, on Bugonia, we decided that, well, first we decided that we were going to shoot on VistaVision, which was like a huge decision. We had shot some VistaVision on Poor Things, but at the time we couldn't really find a camera that was reliable enough and quiet enough to shoot sing dialogue with. So we couldn't shoot much more, but those images stayed in our heads. So as we were making other stuff, we kept like interrogating the possibility, and Robbie was like looking around for what other cameras there could be. So we found this camera, the Willcam, which is quieter. I mean, you can still hear it, but
it's still a pretty big camera, though, right?
Yeah, it's quieter, but it's really huge.
Yeah.
So we did some tests and we liked it. So then you get into okay, we have this restriction. It's going to be huge and it's slow. I mean, it takes a long time to, change the magazine and all of those things. So that puts you in a certain kind of a mode. And if you accept that and you commit to that, then you figure out, the rest of it. So for me, it was like interesting to use such a larger format in what you described as well, like smaller spaces, kind of claustrophobic. A film very much focused on characters and dialogue. I think that kind of depth of the larger format kind of created this almost iconic portraiture of the characters. So we decided that we were going to stick with that and not, use too many wide-angle lenses and see a lot of the space necessarily most of the times, and then juxtapose that portraiture with when you're outside and you see, like something wider, so the contrast is greater. So you just kind of build from the material, from one decision that you make, that it leads you to the others. We always love restrictions as well. Like with Robbie, we've done, the last few films together, and most of the times we kind of impose them ourselves because it just makes things clearer and easier. Like, so you develop this language and you say, like, this is the alphabet. There's like these lenses and the camera doesn't move unless people move. And, it's a huge camera, so we can't do like 1,000 different angles, those things. And that kind of helps, free you in the process, especially, during filming. It's very stressful. You don't have much time. So when you have less options, it kind of frees you to, focus on other things or be creative of how you find a solution for something. So it either comes from, circumstances or a choice that you made, but it's always helpful, I find, to like narrow things down.
I love that juxtaposition in the film that you talked about, this idea that whenever Jesse's on his bike or Emma is just kind of walking briskly through a space, that it feels like the camera is very wide and that there's like this sense of impending doom, like someone might come up behind them at any moment.
Yeah.
But how do you avoid, when you impose those rules, the film like feeling too schematic, feeling too mannered? Do you think about that?
Yeah, which I think I don't mind. I like the aspect of a certain construct to be obvious. And I like to mix that with other things. Like, there can be a, very, as you say, like conscious construct around how the film is recorded, but then like there's these, quite realistic, although I don't really love the term, performances from the actors, or the environment is like really dirty and real. And then you have this other layer of sound or music that's over the top and super dramatic. And I think, all of these things, by combining all these different layers, you create this tone, this tonality, which is, different to its parts. So that's why I'm interested in. But then, of course, if you see it and analyze it, you can see the structure of that. And I don't know, like I find something interesting about like watching a film, getting lost in it, and then something reminding you that you're watching a film.
I know what you mean by that. And there was something related to that I want to ask you too, which is that I feel like most of your films are not dependent on dramatic reveals. But especially having seen this movie twice now, it plays very differently the second time that you see it.
Yeah.
And I'm curious what it was like to, essentially be making what feels like a potboiler in some ways. You're waiting for kind of like revelation, and if that changed how you thought about making the film in any way.
Yeah. I mean, it was more, I think it was more important for Emma, for example, for her performance to think about that a lot, like what it would be. And she talks about that, like that it's the first time that she thought about it in those terms, like what would it be if someone watched the film for a second time. So she did have that in her mind. And, of course, I was there, and I, certain things that I could see, I could help with, I would. But for me, in the end, like when I started thinking about that too much, I felt like in the end, that's not, the strength of this film. That's not what it's about. And also, like it's based on on an older film. If you want to look it up, you know what it is. And I think the effort was like to make, every scene, every second, every, situation compelling and interesting, the same way that I read the script. Because I understood that when I was reading the script, it was about like these characters and, you know, how you get drawn to each one, and then how one manages to convince you about something and then the other, and then you don't know where you are. And I felt like in the end, whatever the outcome is, it's not as important as, you know, this process of being engaged in those ideas and those characters in that way. So I kind of let that go a little bit. And also, I don't think you can control it. I think certain people will, you know, would be able, even if they didn't know the original film, would be able to like decide for themselves, oh, I know what it's going to be. And they might be right, they might be wrong. Someone else thinks something different. There's the people that are going to be alternating the entire time. You know, you can't absolutely control that because there's so many different people. So yeah, I think I let go of that idea of like having to make, you know, a big reveal that impactful, and to make sure that nobody understands that from the beginning. I think it's interesting to allow everyone to have their own mind about it, and then just, you know, make the journey there fulfilling and interesting and exciting.
I did find it much more tragic the second time around, I will say. That I felt much more sad. And, you know, the film, the script is laden with all these modern phrases and this social framework and this kind of exploration of a life spent online in some ways, and, you know, our inability to communicate with each other, essentially. And then the movie itself is this series of communications. I'm curious, like, how much does this aspect of the world and this state of the world, like, you know, actually concern you or scare you, and how much of it is a vessel to explore individual human relationships?
Well, a lot. I mean, it's becoming more and more obvious that, you know, there's the divide between, you know, the different groups of people and all these bubbles that are created, especially with the aid of technology and how fast it progresses. Is something scary, because I see that it's becoming really hard to burst through that bubble, to be able to, you know, to listen to someone else and, you know, actually properly consider a different opinion or a different truth, or the nuance between what you believe and what someone else believes. And that's, you know, just being in those bubbles is just being reinforced, you know, it just reinforces your, you know, ideas instead of like opening you up to other ideas, which is something that technology, you know, would be able to do if it didn't operate in that kind of, you know, algorithm structuring thing where it just gives you what you want. And the same thing with AI is like giving you what you want to hear, what, you know, the direction you want to go. And just, you know, it just seems like it can become totally uncontrollable in a sense, if you don't check in, you know, with other people or other things. So yeah, it realistically seems scary, other than it being a vehicle for us to explore, you know, what that could be, you know, if you actually had that conflict in person instead of, like, for example, doing something like that online. I think Tracy, who wrote the script, talks about that. Like, you know, a basic idea of his was, when you started writing the script, is that, like, if you took all these people that anonymously, you know, make all these comments and are so, you know, absolute about all these things, and, you know, take those people and put them in a room, what happens, you know, like.
Well, one of my favorite takeaways, or at least feelings from the movie, is that being right is not a solution. You know, that even if you are the loudest and most obnoxious person, you might actually be right about what you think is happening in the world. And that doesn't mean that anything is fixable or that you're working towards a solution either, which is just such a fascinating confrontation with the way that we fight with each other every day. And I really clicked with that.
Yeah, no, I agree. And it's funny because, like, also, like, you know, both sides could be right about some of the things. So again, like, if you can't work together and figure out what part of what you believe is true and what part of what I believe is true, then it's kind of impossible to get to a solution. So yeah, I totally agree with that.
I wanted to ask you about Aidan Delbus, who is a complete unknown. You've got he's right in between two performers you've worked with multiple times now. Where did he come from? How did he get cast?
Well, as soon as I read the script, as I said, I sent it to Emma. It was very straightforward for me. And when she responded to it, again, we both thought of Jesse being, perfect for this. We had just worked with him on Kinds of Kindness. So that was very quickly resolved in a way. And so right after having those two in mind, I immediately felt that I wanted someone who's not a professional actor, who hasn't had any film experience. And I do that in all of my films to, various levels. But this was obviously a very important part. It was like the third part in a 3-part kind of film. So yeah, we just started street casting. Basically, we worked with Jennifer Venditti, who has a lot of experience with finding people that are not that do not have any film experience. And the other thing is being inspired by how the characters was written in the script. I just felt that it was an opportunity to cast someone who was neurodivergent. It felt that way in the script, and I think someone who would actually have that sense of the world and have that perspective would enrich the character. So we kind of focused towards that, and very quickly actually, it was one of the first few batches where we saw Aidan, who's autistic, and he prefers that term, and we saw his tape, and he really stood out. But we kept looking because it felt like it was too early to have found, such a.
It should be harder to find the perfect person for this part.
Yeah, we thought it would take forever. So we kept looking, but we just kept saying, Aidan is, the best we've seen so far. So we met him, and we met him for the first time, all three of us, me, Emily, and Jesse. We went in to do a test with the infamous VistaVision camera, the big one, because you can still hear it. So I wanted to have Jesse and Emily experience it to make sure that it wouldn't throw off their performances when they would hear the camera. It actually made them feel better because there was a white noise in the room. It wasn't dead silence in between their dialogue. So they found it quite comforting, the sound of the camera.
I did want to ask you about that. Because I asked Adrian Brody about it around The Brutalist too, because it's a similar thing where it's got to be a little intense. And Aidan as well, having no film experience. What was that like for him too, to have that camera in the room?
Yeah, and The Brutalist, I think that they shot only with a really loud camera, so they probably had them far away or something. But yeah, Aidan didn't. So we met him on that day. It was an opportunity to meet him as well. And again, it was obvious that he was the right person for it, and we were very nervous to meet him. We didn't know what he would think of us. Testing this huge camera, these actors, he didn't really know who they were or what we've done before. At some point, he recognized Jesse, I think, because he watched Breaking Bad. He liked Breaking Bad, and he likes horror films and stuff. So he realized who Jesse was, and that started a great friendship and relationship. So yeah, he was totally unfazed by the camera or us, or we were way more nervous meeting him. And yeah, again, that was a confirmation that he's the right man to bring in. And Yeah, I mean, I was nervous as well, like, how it would be, with someone like him. And we had an access coach on set who's, experienced in these kind of situations, Elaine, and she was extremely helpful because she would walk Aiden through, the process and explain to him how everything is going to be done, make sure that there weren't any things that, would upset him in any way. And but then in the end, it was like, I put in the same trust to him that I put in Emma and Jesse, although they come from a totally different place. For me, what is great about working with great actors or great people that have great presence, it's just like allowing them to come in with their idea about the characters or their instincts, and then mold that instead of me, trying to prescribe, what it is that they have to do or what the role is. And it was the same thing with Aiden. Like, he had instincts about the character, and I just allowed the same way that I allow Jesse and Emily to like bring that in and enrich the process and what's going on. It was a great experience.
I really liked his performance. I have two quick ones for you before we go. The first one is I'm curious just to hear your thoughts on the state of movie going, because Poor Things and The Favorite were pretty sizable hits at the box office, and you're one of the few auteur filmmakers who's making original material and getting audiences to come out and see the films. And we're constantly, at least on this show, debating like, what is the future of this medium and format and experience? So how do you see it right now?
Well, that's a very long conversation, but I think that, again, the divide has become greater. Like there's a very absolute decision, I think, in which films might do well. So which films we're like promoting and spending money on, and that's like a decision that is made very, very early on. So like smaller films have less of an opportunity to be seen unless there's like this, like something that happens, like a certain circumstance, and something catches on for some reason and doesn't need the support of a whole system, like a huge cost around, promoting a film. So, well, there's that, which is pretty tricky. And then there's, the actual decision of people going into the cinema. And I hope that it's, it will never change because it's such a different experience. It's just a communal experience. You perceive films so differently, watching something in the cinema. So, though, of course, streaming and all these things will always, be popular because you can, it's easier and more comfortable. I think if we're, educated enough and try and preserve, that aspect of, films and going to the cinemas and, save all the cinemas from closing down and pass that baton on to the younger generation, which is curious and, is interested. I think that should never go and would never go. It's like, I don't know, like saying that there won't be any live concerts of music anymore because it's easy to just listen to it, at home. It's a totally different experience, and we should do whatever we can to, retain it.
Yorgos, we end every episode of this show by asking filmmakers what's the last great thing that they have seen. Have you seen anything that you've really enjoyed recently?
The last great thing, yeah, I mean, Kelly Reichardt's Mastermind.
Oh, I love this movie. Tell me why you like it.
Well, I always try to tell her why I like her films, and it's always embarrassing. I go like, I'm sorry, but I'm going to say the same things again. I just find what she does so delicate, but at the same time powerful. Like, it's so subtle but then it leaves you like a very lasting, strong impression. And I think that's so difficult to do, and it's so particular to her and how she constructs these films. That every time, I watch one of her films, I'm terribly moved. So yeah, I think this is one of the great, filmmakers. And again, as we talked about before, not enough people get to see her films because, whatever the reason, people decide to either, support such a film, the level that they're going to support such a film or not. So definitely her, yeah.
It's a great recommendation. I saw your film and her film on the same day in Telluride, so a perfect match. Yeah. Yorgos Lanthimos, thanks so much for the time and congrats on the film.
Thank you. Thanks.
Thanks to Yorgos Lanthimos. Thanks to Amanda. Thanks to our producer, Jack Sanders, for his work on this episode. Next week, we're drafting again. Me, you, CR, 1989. You feel ready?
I do.
Okay.
I have some personal anecdotes from the year. It's probably like 1991 to share. Because that's when some of the movies made it.
I see.
Because I couldn't stay up late. But
okay. You were just a tadpole.
Here I go.
And then you became a real girl.
Yeah,
roughly
exactly.
2 years later. Okay. We'll check in then.